Some
Greetings. I'm Leon W. Russell, Chairman of the NAACP National Board of Directors, and it's my pleasure to bring greetings to the great Indiana State Conference and your president, Barbara Bowling Williams. The Indiana State Conference is one of the hardest working state conferences in the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. The work that you will do during this state convention will ensure that you continue that legacy of outstanding achievement, that legacy of fighting forward for justice, of fighting forward for civil rights. I look forward to hearing great things about what the Indiana State Conference does and what it accomplishes in the next year. I know that President Williams will do an outstanding job of making sure that you understand the concepts that created the NAACP and those that will make it successful going forward. So I look forward to the work that you do during this state convention. I look forward to hearing about things in Indiana that will make a difference, a true difference for the people of your state. I know that you understand that it's important for the NAACP to be a voice for the voiceless, to be an advocate for public policy that enhances the lives of our people, not public policy that kills our people. You're there, you're working hard, and I salute all that you are doing. Have a wonderful state convention, and thank you for all that you do.
Welcome to day 2 of the 2021 Indiana State NAACP virtual convening. I'm Sandra Chapman, president of Prince Media Group here in Indianapolis. We begin this evening with introductions of the executive committee. Barbara Bowling Williams, president, Gary. James Burgess, first vice president, Anderson. Ron Davis, second vice president, Elkhart. Gary Lavelle, at-large member, Jeffersonville. Crystal Ratcliffe, fourth vice president, Indianapolis. Doris McDougall, secretary, Muncie. Rebecca Gibson, assistant secretary, Muncie. Maureen Duncan, assistant secretary, Anderson. Mary Aaron, treasurer, Hammond. Sadie Harper Scott, assistant treasurer, Lafayette. At-large members, Cora Breckenridge, membership chairperson, Elkhart. Franklin Breckenridge, president emeritus, Elkhart. Reverend Homer Cobb Jr., Hammond branch president, Hammond. James Dillon, legal redress chairman, Gary. Irma Gist, Fort Wayne. Dr. Calvin Kelly, Fort Wayne. Janice Lavelle, Jeffersonville. Gail Littlejohn, Fort Wayne. Dr. Linda Peterson, Gary. Timothy Russell, Fort Wayne. Rossi Tolliver, Kokomo Branch President, Kokomo. Branch Presidents, James Burgess, Anderson-Madison County. Johnny Edwards, Columbus Bartholomew County, Columbus. Ron Davis, Elkhart. Gerald Arnold, Evansville. Larry Gist, Fort Wayne. Stephen Mays, Gary. Crystal Ratcliffe, Greater Indianapolis. Sylvester Edwards, Greater Terre Haute. Russell Harvey, Greencastle. Reverend Homer Cobb Jr., Hammond. Anitia Fields, Jefferson Clark County, Jeffersonville. Rossi Tolliver, Kokomo. Sadie Harper Scott, Lafayette. Jocelyn Whitaker, Marion. Wesley Scully, Michigan City, LaPorte County, Michigan City. Reverend William Vance, Monroe County, Bloomington. Joseph Anderson, Muncie. Nicole Yates, New Albany. Tom Williams, Richmond. Trina Robinson, South Bend. Standing and special committees and chairs. Deborah Vance, Education, Bloomington. James Dillon, Legal Redress, Gary. Mary Aaron, Finance, Hammond. Kathy Kelly, WIN, Women in NAACP, Gary. Sheila George, Health, Gary. Joseph Anderson, Criminal Justice, Muncie. Cora Breckenridge, Membership and Life Membership, Elkhart. Reverend James O'Neill, Religious Affairs, Kokomo. Rossi Tolliver, Armed Services and Veterans Affairs, Kokomo. Reverend William Vance, Labor and Industry, Bloomington. Rebecca Gibson, Convention Planning, Muncie. James Burgess, Convention Planning, Anderson. Maureen Duncan, Youth Summit, Anderson. Gary Lavelle, Awards, Jeffersonville. John Lang, Prison Reform, Terre Haute. Denise Abdul Rahman, Environmental Climate Justice, Indianapolis. Lorenzo Diller, AXO, Gary. Robert George, Press, Publicity and Communications, Gary. Youth and College State Officers, Carrie Walls, President. Sila Walls, Vice President. Nessa Rose, Secretary. Kendia Motley, Assistant Secretary. Sierra Cobb, Treasurer. Youth Councils, Logan Mitchell, Elkhart. Samundrick Williams, Fort Wayne. Brandon Ratcliffe, Greater Indianapolis. College Chapters, Temple Day, Ball State University, President. Marianne So, Indiana University, President. Carrie Walls, Purdue University, President. Maya Patterson, University of Southern Indiana. We appreciate the hard work of all of these activists. Now we'll turn our attention to the Academic Excellence Report. Joining us is Dr. Gwen Kelly.
Hello, everyone. It's good to be with you this evening. I know you've had a full day, and I'm looking forward to sharing with you this academic excellence report that comes to you from members of the NAACP who have been working on this over the past year. I'm ready to share my screen. Are you able to see this screen?
Are we seeing water?
Okay, how about this screen? I have two screens open.
Yes, that's one. That's the one.
All right, thank you. All right, as we get ready to share, we saw a need for addressing things that are going on in our state with the youth, and especially in the realm of education. So I'd like to give a special thanks to our president, Barbara Bowling Williams, who has been supportive of this effort since its inception, and her finding out about the plan that we had. She was totally behind it. Our chairperson, Deborah Vance, who has served on the committee and been with us as we have met with representatives from the Indiana Department of Education. Our president, Crystal Ratcliffe of the Indianapolis branch, who has been supportive of our efforts from the beginning, and Gary Holland, chairperson of the Greater Indianapolis Education Committee, who helped to spearhead the report being brought together. On the team for the planning and reviewing and writing were myself as the lead writer and editor, Carol Craig of Indianapolis, Shantae Barnes, Cynthia Evans, Dr. Cassandra Gray, Kelly Hershey, Dr. Ivan Douglas Hicks, Annette Johnson, Nicole Kelly, Dr. Gwendolyn Levert, LaQuinta Maxey, Heather McKinney, Patricia Jones, Patricia Payne, and Jillian J. Watts. Some of these people are university connected. Some are teachers in the classroom. All are educators. So what does this plan seek to do? Uh, the Indiana Black Excellence Plan, it comes to address the urgency and pressing goals to make drastic improvement in academic achievement for Indiana's Black students. The ultimate goal focuses on how to eliminate all disproportionalities resulting in inequities and negative outcomes for our Black students as measured through benchmark measures that we have provided for the 2023 year and beyond. I want to go back and look at the cover of the document. All the young people on this cover are graduates of different programs across the state of Indiana. We have some from Richmond, Indiana, some from Indiana, some from charter schools, some were from received degrees with associate degrees with dual credit. Some attended private school. So a variety of young people who have made it by graduating in the state of Indiana. Look at these test scores with me. This is from the Indiana State iLearn Spring 2021 proficiency data. And as you look at it, it's appalling to see that, maybe not startling, but appalling, that our Black students, I'm trying to make a decrease again. Macs are wonderful computers when they work well. I'm going to go back out. I'm not sure what happened. I am going to close this out and come back in. This has never happened to me before. I was on a call yesterday with someone from Walla Walla, Washington, a presenter, and he had difficulties too. So I think I'm in good company. Thank you for your patience. I won't try to zoom in on the data, but what I'd like for you to see is that these are the scores for language arts proficiency, math proficiency in the language arts proficiency is in the blue, math proficiency is in the orange. Both English language arts and math proficiency combined is gray. In the yellow is science proficiency for grades, just 2 of the grades at elementary level, and the social studies was for grade 5. As you see, the circled data shows the Black student achievement for the state of Indiana for 2021 data, grades 3 through 8. 17.4% of Black students passed English language arts, 11.6 math, 8.1 both language arts and math combined, 12.2 science, 13.7 social studies. The data speaks for itself. We've got an urgent problem that we've got to address. In the plan that we put together for the state of Indiana, we decided that there needed to be some foundational principles that we were working from. And those foundational principles included 11 things that must happen in order for our children to be successful and to be considered worthy as they are to receive quality education. We want to provide opportunity and access. We want to have data that is user-friendly for parents as well as anyone coming to the learning environment. We want everyone to have high expectations for our children. We want quality, a grade level appropriate instruction that includes problem solving and critical thinking strategies. We want our children to be independent learners, readers, and thinkers. We want them to have quality educators. We want them to be free of overly harsh, punitive discipline practices. We want them to have be part of the highest performing ethnic group without knowing the results of other children. We want them to be proud and knowledgeable of their history, to have self-identity, gifts and talents, and thrive in society, the ability to be competitive in the job market and assume leadership roles. We want them to become proud advocates for the rights of Black people and to be courageous in accepting responsibility for social justice. With the plan, we developed 4 key areas that we're working on now that as we meet with government officials, with the Indiana Department of Education, with the State Board of Education, we want to make sure that the plan that Indiana has for ESSA, which is the federal guidelines for assuring that every student succeeds, is implemented to its fullest. We want to reestablish meetings with the Cultural Competency and Ethnic Studies Committee. This was going on in the previous administration, and with the change now, this has not happened, and we're pushing to make sure that this happens again. We want the state to evaluate and revise the state data displays that they have so that data is easier to find. And while we have, with the previous administration, we saw some changes, we're starting to see more now as the state and the legislature have moved toward a new database that they are putting up, and they're asking for the input of NAACP members as they're working on this. And we would like to see hired a legislative, elected, appointed by the Indiana Department of Education, an educational equity officer that will not go away when Kara Herring leaves office, if the governor is ever changed. These are the 4 key steps. We have put together in the plan 15 strategies to close the achievement opportunity gap. They include the acknowledgement that COVID has made a difference with our children and the well-being of the students and their family. We want to eliminate the digital divide. When we started writing this at the beginning, even before the COVID broke out, we realized how important the digital divide was. And some of these things we're starting to see already come to fruition. The divide is closing, but it's still there. We want to mandate it full-day kindergarten. Right now, children do not have to go to kindergarten until they're age 7. We want to offer full-day pre-K for all children in the state. We want to provide professional development and be sure that it's happening at the state with the DOE as well as district schools and practicing teachers who are young pre-service teachers. We want to empower teachers to cultivate academic success and to use models that have worked and be allowed to do that. We want to engage parent voices and community, parents, students, and community voice in what's happening. We want to place highly effective teachers with high need students. We want to be sure that we're hiring underrepresented teachers of color and doing whatever we can to make that happen. And we want to eliminate the use of high stakes testing as a sole measure of school accountability. But we do want the testing to remain in place so we can see how our children are doing, but have other measures that show their strengths and assets. We want to prioritize district and school policies that address equity. We want all schools to have a policy and then follow it. We want to create equitable communities through collaboration and support school and district planning for academic success. One thing that all schools must do right now is to have a cultural competency plan. And we want to ensure that these are the 11 components that they use in putting their plans together: effective leadership, monthly professional development, curricular changes, infused ethnic studies, effective instruction, increased time on task, assessments and data analysis that is effective, equity audits, district and school level, culture responsive school and classroom climate, student voice, parent, family, and community engagement. In the appendix of the plan, there is a bibliography of best practices. There are benchmark tools to measure progress. There's all of the code related to cultural competency is listed for 2020. There are benchmarks for assessing the progress for implementation. And there are data sets for the 2019 school year, which was available when the plan was written and released in 2021 of March. The scores for I Read, I Learn, and I Step are there. So what next after the plan? Well, the NAACP chairs and presidents of Indiana have been reviewing the plan. And as they have reviewed the plan, they've come up with a strategy that they're waiting for the data for each branch to come to them so they can look at it and see what's going on with their school. We have a statewide picture, but we want everyone to know what's going on with their particular school district. We want every branch to post the executive summary of the plan on their branch websites and to share the executive summary with district boards, school board members. We plan to hold a press conference in December to officially announce the plan and our intent to continue sharing the plan with, among others, the Indiana Department of Education, the Governor's Office, the Indiana General Assembly, school boards across the state, and other community leaders and members. We want to connect with legislators for potential legislative bills as outcomes. And we want to continue to monitor progress made in disseminating the plan and use the benchmark scores to monitor progress and implementing the net progress over the next 3 years. Together, we can make a difference fighting forward. We can strive for the greatness of spirit that measures life not by its disappointments, but by its possibilities. This is a quote from W.E.B. Du Bois. Our children can be excellent. As I end, let's see if there were any questions in the chat that anyone had. There are no questions. I hope that as our education chairs begin to share the plan with you, you'll see the value of the work that's been done by the team that put this together and begin to disseminated into your community.
Thank you, Dr. Kelly. Outstanding job.
I bet Barbara is surprised that I went so quickly.
I am. I told her take whatever time she needed because this is important. This is groundbreaking.
Usually it takes about an hour to do the presentation, but she said, you have 10 minutes. I said, okay.
Okay, thank you. Please make sure your phones are muted as we prepare to receive Reverend Arnold. Reverend Arnold, we're in your capable hands. Thank you again, Dr. Kelly.
My pleasure and my honor to serve the NAACP.
You need to unmute yourself, Reverend Arnold.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And to everyone, as we celebrate and go through our weekend of education and training, we thank our president and all who worked to help an outstanding job, informational wise. As we look at our civil rights movement, we want to take just a few minutes to celebrate the life and legacy of warriors from the great state of Indiana. We want to celebrate some heroes from little small towns in the state of Indiana that the world stage do not know. These that we celebrate today made greater impact on society than most people know. We come to celebrate the change and victories they made happen while living in the midst of uncertainty. Honor, it is a word that at the core of every man and woman who served and serves the NAACP. Honoring the values and freedom of people of color throughout the country that led through dangers, dedication of something bigger than what they could have imagined. When NAACP members sacrificed their lives, we cannot forget the sacrifice their families made also. Honoring our fallen comrades. Today we pause to honor the NAACP patriots who God called to serve as advocates for justice. For those of us who are on the front line today, to understand what they suffered, the sacrifice they made so that others would not have to go through the same thing they went through. Who would have thought that a Miss Pearl Bassett would have been victorious living in the time that she lived? Victorious living in the midst of uncertainty. Scripture, Matthew 28:16, am I going to read it? 28:16 through 20. John 14:25 through 27. Acts 4 through 23 through 31. The one is that we know that our mission is bigger than we are. It's universal. We know that we can find trust in God to succeed. And we know in Jesus' mighty name that he's the strength that we need to go forward. Do we have assurance in the midst of uncertainty? Can we be victorious living in the midst of uncertainty? Our heroes as NAACP members live victoriously in a time of uncertainty. Since the late 1800s, people of color lived a victorious life in the midst of living while in a pandemic of racial inequality, pandemic of social justice, financial instability, and a growing tenure of violence and anger. God gave us the assurance that we can only help enable us to transform freedom. He gave that to us to be able to change the atmosphere, the narrative. Dr. King said there's a knock at midnight. The guy on the inside would get up and give him as much as he needs because of his opportunity, the persistent knocking. Grace and peace from God the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Today we honor our comrades who went home to be with the Lord this past year. I want to share with you God's assurance. I want to share with you God's assurance that as followers of Christ, we have someone to hold on to during the times of uncertainty. Times of uncertainty like the ones our fallen comrades faced. Trust me, my brothers and sisters, we do live in uncertain times. We still find ourselves living in the midst of a global pandemic. We still live in the midst of racial inequality. We still live in the midst of economic insecurity. We still live in the midst of a world increasingly filled with anger and violence. Listen, I even had an NAACP member said, threaten me. So we find ourselves living in the midst of a world that seems to be spinning out of control. But as followers of Christ, we can't hide. We gotta stand up. We cannot ignore what is going on around us like it's not happening. We need to lash out with an equal force of anger and violence against injustice. We need to lean into God's assurance like our honorees did. These fallen comrades who we honor today, I believe lean into God's assurance. I believe they found themselves being able to be victoriously, to be able to navigate their lives during times of uncertainty, during those precious times, moments in time. I believe in the midst of all the uncertainty that surrounded these honorees, those through all of the confusion and all of the propaganda, they found peace that God would see them through. The peace of God, which passes all understanding, which will guard your hearts and your minds through Christ. I don't know about you, but I believe that all around us, there are people like those we honor today who need to lean into the peace, the grace that only God can give. We're still fighting for voters' rights. We're still fighting for equal rights. We need the grace and peace that can only bring a supernatural stability, and that is leaning into God. Apostle Paul had the ability to be at peace in the midst of chaos, like our honorees and us. Paul lived a very uncertain life in perilous times, like Trumpism. In fact, it could be said that in Paul's time, it was far worse than what it is today. Apostle Paul lived in times when there was constant financial uncertainty, political upheaval, and social unrest. He lived in times when a moment's notice, a person could find themselves arrested, find themselves beaten, and placed into prison, or even worse, killed. Y'all don't hear me, George Floyd. Much like the times the people lived that we honor today. You and I are not exempt. The anger, racism, hatred, and killings of Black men and women in the past 4 years, the denying of voters' rights, and the altering of our education system, and what our honorees fought for, and we're still fighting. As we transition, we thank God for Apostle Paul, for the story of Apostle Paul, and the stories of others like Pearl Bassett, who were followers of Christ. We realize that they were filled with the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding. They were constantly being filled with supernatural strength and courage. They were able to stand in the midst of all the pain and suffering they endured. Praise God, they leaned into Jesus, his assurance, and they were always given strength. Our honorees believed that Jesus would be with them, no matter what, until the end of the age. God bless them, they rest in peace. They took Jesus at his word. Each day, they lived with assurance that in some way, somehow, if they would just remain in Christ, some way, somehow, if they just remain in the presence of God, some way, somehow, if they just remain in the power and peace, that change was going to come. We honor those who have fallen this past year. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Soldiers have fallen in battle within the Indiana NAACP State Conference. Our circle has not been broken as we stand ready to take up the fight from those we dearly miss and fondly remember. Those individuals are Anderson, Madison County, Rosetta Minifield, Fort Wayne, Maya L. Bledsoe, Reuben Lee Brown, Goldsby Craig, Eugene L. King Sr., Gary Pastor Dr. Lorenzo Bonds Sr., Diane Ross Boswell, Richard Calloway, Dr. Francina Conrad, Raymond Davis Jr., Mary Fields, Vivian Hazlett Pritchett, Richard Johnson, Kayvon Robinson, Catherine M. Trufant, Greater Terre Haute, Dr. James E. Conyers, Bobby J. DeBow, Patricia Mansard, Mary Russell, Margaret Taylor, Shirley D. Wilson, Hammond, Constance Foltz, Indianapolis, Jamesella Adams, Kevin Carr, James Cummings, Carol Snorton, Charles L. Terry, Brenda L. Walden, Attorney Larry Whitney, Jeffersonville, Ronald Fields, Deborah Hanna, John Miller, Kokomo, Jerry Gunnings Stroman, Elise Pauline Reese King, Marion, Pearl Cannon Bassett, James Carter, Jeanette Mills, Michigan City, Jeanette Nigu, Muncie, Hurley Goodall, Bishop Adrian Lavelle, Bishop Royce H. Mitchell, South Bend, Robert Smith, Elkhart, Arthur Decio, Veronica Gary, Melvin Thompson.
Good evening and welcome to the NAACP Indiana State Conference Awards Program. The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People 2021 Indiana State Branch Award. COVID-19 has forced us all to be creative in how we do many things. The selection of the Branch Award presented such a challenge. Branches were not able to engage in and with their communities in the same way they had in the past. The 2021 Indiana State Branch Award is awarded to the Monroe County NAACP branch in Bloomington, Indiana. This has been a difficult year for civil rights advocates and endeavors. The Monroe County branch has continued to further the causes that are dear to the mission of the NAACP. They have reported, turned in their quarterly reports, continued their committee action on majority of our designations. They have continued a business as usual attitude during a difficult year. The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People 2021 Indiana State Branch Yearbook Award. The purpose of the Branch Yearbook Award is to award the branch who has documented a historical representation of an individual branch during the year. Materials must include project materials relative to the branch programs, media publicity of branch events, clippings, correspondence, and radio blurbs, correspondence of thank you notes from agencies on branch rendered services donated to those agencies, Freedom Fund programs or similar activities, photograph of branch events. Newspaper items should include official newspaper's name, date, and it should not be handwritten. Yearbook should follow the same format that is used in the branch reports. This award is awarded to the Fort Wayne Allen County branch. The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People 2021 Indiana State Jeanette Strong Youth Award. The Jeanette Strong Youth Award was established to inspire that youth who has given outstanding community service and active participation in affairs benefiting the local, state, and national NAACP. This award may be presented to that youth who has developed an intellect and militant youth leadership through devising, working out, and pursuing local programs. This award may be made for a youth who has devoted services to the causes stated, voluntarily contributing their time with a reasonable impact upon the lives of those encountered. This award shall be presented to a youth council advisor, youth council president, or any other youth member under the age of 25. The 2021 Indiana State Jeanette Strong Youth Award, presented to the Jeffersonville Youth Council Advisors and the Jeffersonville Youth Council. 3 women serve as advisors to this youth council: Tracy Cobb, Shawana Kirby Campbell, and Tia Williams Hampton. About 5 years ago, these ladies, armed with the blessings of the Jeffersonville branch, began to reorganize the youth in the community to reactivate the Jeffersonville Youth Council. It only took 25 members to reactivate and maintain compliance. They went beyond this to more than having 49 plus members. Because of their training, mentoring of their own, who was a part of the organization effort, Mr. Gary Walls has gone from being president of the Jeffersonville Youth Council to reorganizing and serving as the president of the Purdue University College chapter. Mr. Walls is a state youth and college president and was elected as Region 3 representative to the National Youth Work Committee, which led to the successful election for chair of the Youth Works Committee that gives him a seat on the national board. As you can see, this branch produces leaders and activists. Their achievements, accomplishments, and activities have been many, all in the midst of COVID. The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People 2021 Indiana State Hazel B. Hunter Award. The Hazel B. Hunter Award was established for a worthy member of the state officers and/or executive board who is a facilitator of problem solving affecting others. This award may be given to that officer or executive board member whose deeds or services shall have impacted upon the state conference program in such a manner that the NAACP has benefited from stated causes. The 2021 Indiana State Hazel B. Hunter Award is awarded to Irma Gist. Irma Gist serves as a member of the State Conference Executive Committee as an at-large member. She is also the Fort Wayne Branch Secretary. She has assisted other branch secretaries navigate the new membership portal established by the national office. She has worked with the State Awards Committee and much more. Whenever asked to serve, she does it with dignity and distinction, willing to serve and never complains or brags about what she is doing. She keeps a humble spirit about herself. Her willingness to share her wealth of information has been proven over and over again. The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People 2021 Indiana State Conference Corporate Award. This award is given to a company, corporation, institution, or organization that supports the NAACP. The entity is involved in the community as follows. It underwrites Freedom Fund banquets and other significant NAACP venues, sends or includes members of the company in NAACP initiatives and programs, supports the Indiana State NAACP Conference. The company is a shining example of how companies, partners, collaborates with the NAACP locally and statewide, donates time, equipment, and participates in NAACP functions, always willing to go above and beyond when NAACP needs friends that can make things happen. The 2021 Indiana State Conference Corporate Partnership Award, Indiana Businesses and Community Partnership for Racial Equity. The IBCPRE is an entity that was formed in 2020, comprised of some of the following businesses and community groups listed: the ACLU Indiana, Anthem, AT&T, Black Honest Management, Bose Public Affairs, Concerned Clergy of Indianapolis, Cummins, Eli Lilly, Indiana Legal Services, Indiana State Conference of NAACP, Indianapolis Black Expo, Indianapolis Branch NAACP, the Indianapolis Chamber of Commerce, and the Indianapolis Urban League, IU Health, and Roche Salesforce. This group was formed to respond to the regressive and oppressive legislation that was being introduced and enacted by the supermajority of one party that continues to exist in the Indiana State House. Since its inception, the IBCPRE has advocated for the passage of the criminal reform bill that passed and changes to voting processes that have not. The business community recognized that it was increasingly more difficult to attract a talented and qualified workforce to the state that was ultra-conservative and resistant to listening to the voices of a large segment of the Indiana population. Community groups understood that when the least of us rise, we all rise. Further, that this legislation climate impedes businesses from locating to Indiana and our Hoosier sons and daughters from returning home. The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People 2021 Indiana State Conference Achievement Award. This award was established to recognize a state committee chairperson and our local president who has shown unusual success in achievements or service benefits at the state conference. This award is given to honor services or deeds that have an observable impact on the state conference and has affected lives of an astounding number of individuals or groups. The 2021 Indiana State Conference Achievement Award winner is Rebecca Gibson. There are few members in our state conference who are better at problem solving than Rebecca Thomas Gibson. As co-chair of our state convention planning committee for many years, she has demonstrated her patience and skill at working with others and has been a very valuable asset towards many, many successful conventions. As Assistant Secretary, she has been a true blessing. As State Secretary, Doris McDougall has been able to rely on her intelligence, computer literacy, and her willingness to help in any way. She is dependable. She has always helped our entire conference and has attended many events throughout the state and at the national level. Rebecca will be retiring from her position as Assistant Secretary, as well as convention co-chair positions after this term. She is very deserving of this award for her continued service, dedication, and the state conference will miss her many talents and her warm personality. National Association for the Advancement of Colored People 2021 Indiana State Conference, the Franklin E. Breckinridge Award. The Franklin E. Breckinridge Award was established to acknowledge specifically the work of a certain individual deserving of special recognition for superior service or performance in civil rights, and who has performed distinguished service for the Indiana State Conference of branches in the past and or present. This award may be made for outstanding achievement in a chosen field of civil rights related to the NAACP's goals and purposes. This distinguished achievement shall merit state recognition, which demonstrates unusual success in endeavors, chosen vocation, or stated cause. Such activities should have resulted in achieving goals that have improved civil, social, or physical conditions and may or may not be in connection with the vocational endeavor of the candidate. The 2021 Indiana State Conference Franklin E. Breckinridge Award is presented to Cora Smith Breckinridge. This is the highest award that we give as a state conference, and it is so fitting and deserving that Ms. Breckinridge be given this recognition. She is a Christian woman, daughter of a Baptist minister where she sung in the choir. Today, she is a faithful member of an AME church where her husband serves as pastor, the mother of 3 and the grandmother of 2. Cora, a graduate of Indiana University, was secretary of her senior class. While there, she received her degrees in audiology. She got her BS and MS. After graduation, Cora became active with the university's Alumni Association. The university, founded in 1820, Cora would ultimately be elected as the first African American elected to the Indiana University Board of Trustees, serving from 1997 to 2006. She was instrumental in the hiring of the first Black basketball coach in the history of the Big Ten. Today, 3 of the 9-member Board of Trustees are Black, including the chairman. She started working in the NAACP in 1954. Cora was a member of the Kokomo Branch Executive Committee in 1971. The family moved to Elkhart, Indiana, where she continued to be active. She was president of the Elkhart branch in 1980, and in 1982 became the secretary of the branch, where she continues to serve in this position to this day. In 1978, Cora was appointed state membership chair, where she continues to serve in that capacity now. She is also an at-large member of the State Executive Committee. Because of her leadership, Indiana is recognized at every board meeting for our consistent attention to membership. Cora was elected to the board of directors of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People in 2000. She served until her tenure was concluded in 2012. During that time, she served on the following board committees: executive chair of the membership and convention planning. Mrs. Breckenridge and her 57 years of service embody all that is good, just, and right about the NAACP. The Indiana State Conference salutes your efforts to connect business and community for the present and future of all Hoosiers as we fight forward together.
And here we are wrapping up another successful day. The Indiana NAACP State Conference extends its thanks to all of the participants and presenters for their support this weekend. And a special thanks to the sponsors, Walmart, NIPSCO, IU Health, First Midwest Bank, and Body Worn Utility. And thank you for being with us. The closing plenary session will be on Sunday at 3 o'clock. I'm Sandra Chapman. Have a great evening.
We're getting ready to go live at this point. Okay. I certainly want to congratulate all of the winners who received recognition this evening. They are more than deserving. They're more than deserving. And I think that anyone who works in the NAACP recognizes that fact. There are a couple more award presentations that need to be made at this time. And the first, I'm trying to, okay, there we go. Share my screen. And I hope you see that. Okay, what it is, where we are, is the laydown report. As we talked about, Mrs. Breckenridge, and congratulations to her on receiving the Franklin E. Breckenridge Award this evening. Just as she is true to form, she has made sure that branches had an opportunity to submit a laydown report. And in first place is none other than the Indianapolis branch. And as you can see there, they had 69 members. Basically, this reporting period was from middle of October until like the first week in November. Second place went to the Elkhart branch as the branch secretary there. You know she's going to be in those upper numbers. She's going to make sure that her branch is. The third place is Columbus Bartholomew County with 21 memberships. Fourth place, Monroe County, Bloomington. with 17. I don't have my glasses on. I hope they think that's 12. Fifth place, LaPorte, Michigan City branch with 7 memberships. Sixth place, Hammond branch with 6 memberships. Seventh place, the Kokomo branch with 4 memberships. Eighth place, the Marion branch with 3 memberships. Ninth place, Evansville branch with 1 membership. And 10th place, Fort Wayne with 1 membership, for a total of 157 memberships. And the dollar amount represented by those memberships is $5,726.40. Congratulations to all those units who participated in the laydown for this convening. Now moving back to the coming out of my share screen. I want to do that. I want to come out. Oh, it has to do this. Let's see what I have to do. Stop share screen. Okay. Yes. I have the task of awarding the President's Award. This is the one award that nobody knows who's going to get it. And I kind of keep it very close to my vest. I don't, and in fact, last year I awarded it to all of the Convention Planning Committee because they were more than deserving with the work that they put in to plan our virtual convening last year. And I was leaning toward doing that again this year. So, team, I'm sorry, but I at the last minute, there was, like I said, a dark horse that came up, and I had to recognize this person. And in the tradition of President Emeritus Franklin Breckinridge, who kind of hints about who it might be, giving little tidbits. This is a person who has served for president of a branch for several years. This person brought law enforcement and community together for the very first time in his community, long before we had the George Floyd and other situations. He was on the cutting edge of doing that. I had the blessed opportunity to be present at that event, and one of the remarks by law enforcement was that that they had never ever had anybody to bring them together with the community, especially the African American community. That person worked with making sure that he had quarterly reports. It is a he, so now we know that it's kind of a little narrower. That he did quarterly reports. He made sure he's reported at all of our meetings and also present at our quarterly meetings for most of them. And then if he doesn't know who he is, I know this part is going to kind of tip it, at least for him. And he works closely with Earlham College. And so the person who I am giving the President's Award to is none other than Tommy Williams, president of the Richmond branch. And let me tell you a little bit more about Tommy. Thank you very much. And tell you a little bit more about him. And I've talked to you about all of the things that he has done. But I want to tell you that he has done them facing obstacles which any one of us, if we had any one of them, probably would not have been able to do. Tommy's a double amputee. He lost his mother over this past year. He lost his only sibling. He had a stroke, and yet and still, he's still here at this convening. So that is the spirit of this man. And I know that there are probably other challenges that he has had that I don't know about, but those are the ones that I know about. And yet and still, he is still committed, still working, still doing the work of civil rights. So I salute you, Tommy Williams, president of the Richmond branch, and we thank you. We thank you so much for what you have done, for being the inspiration that you are to me. You are certainly an inspiration to me, and so that I wanted to make that presentation. Well, Indiana State Conference, believe it or not, we are finished for today, but there's some of us who still have work to do because they are on committees that are going to have to report out to you tomorrow. Reconvene tomorrow at 2:45 for day 3 of our virtual convening, which is also our closeout day in session. It's the closing plenary session. And at that point, we will receive the reports of the committees that were elected on yesterday. That's resolutions, that's time and place, and that's credentials. So I want to announce on behalf of the credentials committee, not the credentials committee, excuse me, the resolution committee, that they will be meeting in about 10 minutes. I guess enough time for me to get off the line, set up the Zoom call for them. And I'm not sure, I know that time and the credentials is already met. I don't know if they're finished with their business, and I'm not sure about what time and place, but they have until tomorrow and to do their business. So you got a chance now, because we've had a full day, a very full day, to kind of relax. Take this time and go back if you want to and look at some of the sessions that we had earlier today. They're out there on Facebook and on YouTube. You can go see if some that you had to miss because you were in another one. It's out there. I highly recommend all of them. They were first class, and I thank you. So I'm not going to prolong this. I'm going to say with that, we are in recess. Thank you.